Is Pat Riley going to make another move this offseason to improve this Miami Heat roster? There is a rumor out there that points towards the answer being yes. I am Nic Rohloff. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. And Riley's only made a couple of moves this offseason. Re-signing Davion Mitchell, acquiring Norman Powell in that three-team trade, and then obviously also executing the sign-and trade with Duncan Robinson, which netted Miami Simone Fontecchio. Well, if the Heat do make another move this offseason, we will continue to update you over on my social media on X. At Nic_Rohloff is my handle. If you want more Heat content every single day in between our videos, make sure you go give me a follow because that's where it will all be. Well, this whole idea and thought of another move coming actually was sparked by a former Heat player, current NBA agent, Mike Miller. He spoke about how he thinks another move could be coming for Miami. Mike Miller on the OG podcast last week with Udonis Haslem said, I love Coach Pat. I love Norman Powell. I still don't believe, even with that move, and Miami Heat can hate me, I still don't believe it moves the needle for a championship. You know what I do know? Coach Riley's not done. And a couple instant reactions from that line from Mike Miller. One, he is not wrong. The current Miami Heat roster, unless some things break unbelievably in the Heat's favor, that current roster probably is not able to compete for a championship. But I do find it interesting that Mike Miller said that, not only as he is a former player for Miami, a former champion with the Heat, but another reason why it's interesting. He is an NBA agent. I think people forget that. He is the head of Lyft Sports Management. And here are the top clients that Mike Miller represents that are currently in the NBA. Paolo Banchero, Jabari Smith, Jeremiah Fears, Wendell Carter Jr., Robert Williams III, and then the Jones brothers and PJ Washington. And if you actually look at this list, it's been a busy offseason for Mike Miller. He got Paolo extended, Jabari extended. PJ Washington has a recent contract. Giannis and Trey Jones both got new deals, and a couple drafted players as well. Now, when you look at that list, some people might say, well, he's an agent. He's saying they might not be done because maybe he's working with a player that he represents. Obviously, there are more players than the list that we just showed that he represents, but none of those players are probably going to end up being members of the Miami Heat. The only one that I can justify is Robert Williams, in case the Blazers and Heat work out a trade where Rozier goes to Portland and Miami gets, say, Matisse Thybulle and Robert Williams in return. But I'll say this, knowing people that are in the sports agency world, if you represent a player, you might not be working on a specific deal with them, but you will hear about all the other moves happening around the league. Now, sometimes it's airtight, sometimes it's a little bit more loosey-goosey, but you will hear about other moves potentially being made around the NBA because it could ultimately impact your client. So I do think when Mike Miller speculates about another move potentially coming, claiming he knows who Pat Riley is, he might also have an idea of what that move could be. So what say you? Today's pinned comments. You get hit with a YouTube ad break, scroll down, let it play, and answer the question. Do you think the Heat will make another move this offseason? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I cannot guarantee that another move will ultimately come to fruition for Miami, but I can guarantee you they are certainly going to try to make another move. When you currently look at what Miami has on their roster, they have 14 standard contracts, so they have one roster spot open as you are allowed 15. I think the starting lineup I would run right now are the 5 pictures you see on screen, barring any changes. And I do think it's a competitive starting 5 that can absolutely avoid the play-in this year if things break their way with injuries and they still predominantly healthy. Like, I think that's the top 6 team in the East with Boston, Milwaukee taking a step back. Same thing with Indiana potentially. But you look at their bench. You have Jovic, Kashad Johnson, Davion Mitchell, Yakachonis, Jaquez, Rozier, Highsmith, Fontecchio, Larson. Like, there is a glaring need on this roster. Other than just adding the best talent possible, a.k.a. another all-star or superstar to that starting lineup, they desperately need to add more depth to their front court. And although they probably both weren't going to play, losing Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love were 2 of your big-time pieces in terms of your depth in your front court. So if you're speculating about what a potential move could be for Miami the rest of the offseason, and you take what Mike Miller said to heart, well, here are the 3 potential moves that the front office in Miami are probably trying to make. I think number one is obviously if a star player asks out. Number two could be trying to add to that front court depth that we just mentioned. And then number three, which is probably the most likely, is shedding salary to get underneath the luxury tax. I'm going to go through each of these moves. We'll start with number one, star player asking out. If I am going to rank which one of those three is most likely to happen, a star player asking out from now until the start of the season and Miami actually executing a trade is probably the least likely. And I was trying to think on what players could be the most likely to ask out or be on the move that you would consider stars. Here are my six: Ja Morant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, De'Aaron Fox, LaMelo Ball, LeBron James, and Lauri Markkanen. Now, I think there are certain players that are more likely than other. I think if you're ranking the players that are most likely to be traded between now and October before the season begins, I think LeBron and Giannis would be probably atop that list. But then if you're thinking about what players maybe could be traded during the season or before the February trade deadline, well, then now we're starting to talk about maybe a Ja Morant, maybe a LaMelo Ball, maybe a De'Aaron Fox, who I believe is the most intriguing option for the Miami Heat if they are continuing to hunt for a star player. We know that Miami has looked to add to their backcourt, pairing up with Tyler Hero and trying to find that future point guard of the Heat organization. I think it could be Fox. We know Miami was interested in De'Aaron Fox before the trade deadline, before he went from Sacramento to San Antonio. The issue is that they had to figure out their own situation with Jimmy Butler. And now, if he is available again, which I do not think is out of the ordinary. Like, you look at the Spurs roster. What if they want to just commit to the young core of Wemby, Vassell, Stephon Castle won Rookie of the Year, the number 2 overall pick Dylan Harper? Like, De'Aaron Fox is an unrestricted free agent this upcoming summer. And if the Spurs are like, well, we really like Fox, we obviously traded for him, but we love what we've seen from Dylan Harper. We love what we have in Castle. We like Vassell. Like, what if we just kept these young guys together, didn't commit $50+ million of De'Aaron Fox, and just kind of continued to build a more structured roster around their young guys on rookie deals, and they traded Fox at the deadline? I think that is an absolute possible situation, and I will continue to believe that is a possibility until De'Aaron Fox ultimately signs an extension with the San Antonio Spurs. So if he's not extended and it's still around the trade deadline, I think Miami could absolutely make a play for him, and the Heat have a solid package. They have some young guys: Yakachonis, Jaquez, Jovic, Ware. I don't know if they would trade Ware, but you get my point. They have young guys plus 3 tradable first-round picks. They have a compelling package for a guy like De'Aaron Fox. We're going to continue to bring you daily content every single day around this Miami Heat basketball team, so subscribe for news, rumors, shorts, live streams. We have it all here. Join the family at the Heat Report right now. As we continue on in today's video, we'll move on to number 2. What was number 2? Adding a backup center, front court depth. It's certainly something I think the Heat roster desperately needs. When you look at what Miami has in their front court right now, it's Bam Adebayo, Nikola Jovic, and Kel'el Ware. It just simply can't be that way. Like, maybe you want to include Kashad Johnson. Maybe you want to include Haywood Highsmith. Like, Simone Fontecchio, maybe. But those guys aren't big men. They're not going to be able to battle down low with 7-footers. And once again, you would be a severely undersized team when Bam and Ware aren't on the floor together. And hand up, I don't want that whatsoever. We started to lean into more of a big lineup last season, and I like that at times. Well, you're not going to be able to do that again if you do not add a big man to this rotation. And if we're going to be honest about those 3 players I just mentioned, one of them is not even a big man in my opinion. Nikola Jovic, although being 6'10", he does not have the physicality. He is not as good as a rebounder as he needs to be in order to be classified as a big. Jovic is more of a wing. Jovic is the best version of himself when he is on the perimeter, handling the ball, getting out in transition, and knocking down 3-point shots off the catch. He is not inside grinding it out with other big men. No, that is what Bam and Kalal Ware does. So I do not want Jovic to be a small ball five. Can he play the four next to Ware or Bam? Yeah, absolutely. But to have him play as a small ball center would be a disaster, in my opinion, because it does not utilize his skill set to the absolute maximum where he has the ball in his hands. Maybe it creates mismatches for their opponent, but he is just not able to do it efficiently enough defensively or on the glass to where I believe Miami should not add another big. They absolutely need to add another big man to this roster. How do they do it? I don't know, but that is why I think Mike Miller might be saying, hey, another move could be coming. Be the GM for me. Do the Heat need another big? Do they need to add a guy? I think they do, so I am typing my A for add. If you think they're good and just want to run with what they have, type P for pass. So when we look back at the potential Heat moves Miami could make, number 3 was shedding salary. I think if you rank these three in terms of which one is the biggest priority for Miami, it would actually be numero tres here to shed salary. This is massive for the Heat. Why? Well, they do not want to be in the luxury tax once again. They want to avoid that. And right now, they are $1.4 million above the luxury tax. Pat Riley spoke at the end of the season press conference about maybe trying to hop out of the repeaters tax and then go back in after this season. Well, that means they need to shed $1.5 million in salary before the end of the season, before we get to April of 2026, in order to get underneath the luxury tax. And we know what the number one goal is in that type of move. It's to get rid of this man right here, Terry Rozier, who has an expiring $26.6 million contract. Now, it also would benefit Miami to let that expiring run out and then have more ammunition and more flexibility next offseason. But you could still hypothetically do that if you traded Rozier for multiple expiring contracts or another expiring deal that is at least $1.5 million less. So when you think about it, in any Terry Rozier trade, you would like Miami to take back, remember, he's got 26.6, 25.1. That is $1.5 million less. And if you take back $25.1 million in a deal for Rozier, well, that means you are then underneath the luxury tax, which would be a priority for the Miami Heat. And I want to make sure people are subscribed before we end today's show. Subscribe to the Heat Report because we will make sure you are covered on every single move the Heat can make. So join the channel today. Don't miss out. I'll see you in another video tomorrow. And as always, go